Yasmin says, I will never forgive you and I will never forget this.
Welcome to the To Be Read podcast. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Julie.
And today we are talking all things buddy reading. Ugh. Buddy reading is very near and dear to our hearts because that is basically how we started to become friends.
It was our bonding experience, for sure.
We haven't been friends for long, but we attached.
And now we'll be friends forever.
And now
there's been long, but we're on the road for forever.
There's no getting out of it. Like the deposit is down.
Deposit's down.
Not getting a deposit.
No. Deposit is not being taken back. We are tied forever.
But it's almost been a year, so that's kind of crazy.
What?
It
has.
Okay, I'm going to paint a little picture here.
Please.
So I first met Julie at a book club of all places.
What?
Imagine
book club? We don't go to those ever.
What? It was a book club that I was invited to by someone that I only kind of barely knew.
Yeah.
And she was like, we have a neighborhood book club. And I said, And the more you guys get to know me, the more you will see that I am not into like
socializing.
Yeah, social gatherings. The people that I like love, and I'll be social with those people. But I do not, which is Julie. But I don't love to like go out and like meet new people, mainly because not everyone is like as awesome as Julie is. So I remember I almost didn't go for a myriad of reasons, but I was like, I don't know. A lot of people around here are like really conservative. It's going to be a bunch of like religious books or something. I was really hesitant, but the girl that invited me is like into dark romance. So I was like, okay, well, she likes it, then I'll try it. And so I went and I kind of like sat in the corner and just like observed, which I really liked. Like people probably looked at me and was like, oh, why is she sitting by herself? But I was like, just watching. And Julie is like the life of the party. She is like, when she came in, everyone was like, Julie. And like, to be fair, you started the book club.
I did. It was my little baby.
Yeah.
That I started just like shortly after COVID, honestly.
And it was very interesting to see you in that light because like how I know you now is not necessarily that persona all the time.
Yeah.
Like we all have like a time and place. But so, and then we started kind of briefly, and it was like kind of as I was leaving or I was like getting ready to leave and you're like, what kind of books do you read? And I was like, well, like fantasy. And what did you tell me?
Well, let me rewind here for just a second, because there's those moments in life where someone comes into a room and you're just like, I have to talk to them. And that does not happen to me often because I hate small talk. I hate small talk, but I do have a good sense of friends. And so when I saw you, I was like, I have got to talk to her. I've got to get an in. Like, I'm just feeling it. And it's funny because a couple book clubs later, I was like, I have to talk to her.
Really?
I have to talk to her. Yes.
I don't think I knew that.
I was like determined to talk to you. That makes you sound so weird. But I sat down and you're like, what do you like to read? And I was like, I don't really like fantasy all that much, but I'm reading ACOTAR for the first time.
Yes. And then I got added to you. You're like, do you want to be a part of our little text group?
So I had a friend. First off, I saw a video on TikTok by Andrewski. He had just read the first ACOTAR book, and he does the funniest like post-read review synopses.
He's probably my all-time favorite TikToker.
He is hilarious. I love him. We'll tag him, Andrewski. He's the best. So he did this like whole video rundown of the first ACOTAR book, and I sent it to my friends because they've been giving me the hardest time for years now about reading that book. And they're like, so are you going to read it now? And I'm like, probably not. And then one of them was like, I will literally pay you like I do my child to read the books. And I was like, how much are we talking? She's like $10 a book. And I was like, sold. She bought me the box set that day
and
from
paid.
Target, brought it to me, and then continued to pay me $10 per book.
Okay.
So we had this group chat of a few people that had read it and were wanting me to read it. And so I added you into that.
Yeah. And I wasn't a participant because I didn't know anyone. Yeah. Which is the girl that invited me was in that group chat. You think I would have been a little bit more like involved, but I was still just kind of like surveying the scene.
Yeah.
You sent a lot of TikToks and you were like, I just finished, Mist and Fury or whatever. It was very refreshing to hear your point of view, I will say.
Thank you. Thank you. I held out for a long time, but I was quickly sucked in.
And we still like didn't really talk or anything. And it was like February is when I think was that book club.
Yeah.
With
So
Divine
after
Rivals.
that book club, I had your number and I was texting you a little about ACOTAR. At the end of the year, I read like One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I talked to you a little bit about that. And then I read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, which we talked a little bit more about because you actually were like, because I hated Ruthless Vows, which we'll talk about in the duologies episode. But you were like, keep going. Like it kind of gets better. But you were kind of there for me when I was like so disappointed in Ruthless Vows. And I was like, because you didn't love it either.
No, but it was still worth reading for sure.
Yeah. But like I was disappointed and you were there. And then Crescent City hit.
Yeah, because you were going through your ACOTAR and Crescent City. So your SJM order was ACOTAR, Crescent City, then Throne of Glass.
Throne of Glass, which is such a strange
literally
order.
The opposite of my order.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So Crescent City 3 came out in January and we ended up kind of reading Crescent City at the same time because we'd had book club at another friend's house and she talked about Crescent City and I was like, okay, I'll read it. Funny thing, she actually bought me Crescent City as well.
Did she really?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I knew that because you said you didn't
She
pay
bought
for
me
any
one
of the
and
books.
two, and then you gave me one of your like messed up copies of the third one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we really started like chatting a lot during Crescent City. Well, especially the third one.
You were reading Crescent City for the first time, and I was rereading.
You were rereading
because I like to reread the previous books before the newest one comes out. So like with ACOTAR and like Crescent City, I've read those SOBs multiple times with each like release. So it was fun to experience that together.
Yeah.
And it
was so fun.
And it wasn't, we still hadn't
Crescent City 3 was the wildest of rides.
It really was.
And we rode that thing together, man.
We did.
We were on that roller coaster on all the ups and downs.
I remember like specifically being like, what the hell is up with this book, Julie? Like you and I, because you I think maybe finished it before I did, just by a couple of days.
I read that book in like 3 days.
Yeah, and I was still working through it because it came out on like a Tuesday. And
we had a lot of text. You were like, what the crap is happening? What's going on? So we talked a lot during Crescent City 3. And it was shortly after that we had another book club. And at that one we chatted a lot at. That one was at Crystal's house.
Yeah.
And we chatted a lot. Because I was like, I have to talk. Like, you got there and I was like, yes, I'm going to talk to her. I was like so determined to be your friend, which is so funny because like,
I love that.
I texted the hell out of you for a long time.
I'm not a texter for one.
I am.
And I remember my husband being like, it feels like you guys are dating. And I was like, there's like a little bit of a courtship happening. Yeah, like a platonic courtship happening. But I like, it never bothered me. It just always felt so organic. It wasn't like forced.
Like even though I was like, I really want to be your friend, like it came around like so naturally.
Yeah. And if I would have felt like that forced, that's when I'm like, I'm out of here. So
I did a good job.
For you being so on top of it, texting wise, I really can appreciate that you did it with grace and tact. Because sometimes, you know what I mean? Like some people are like, hey, what are you doing? How's it going? And you're just like,
I just want to talk about books.
Yeah.
Like a love language for me is you reading a book that I've read and then you texting me like literally every chapter. Like, and you lived up to those standards without me having to say anything.
I really hate making small talk. I would much rather talk about in-depth, personal, like things, just like really getting to know who a person is.
110%,
and none of this like, oh girl, what you doing? Like where you been? Loca? Like, I don't know. I just
not the Loca.
I hate the faffing about. And you just like got into it. And I was like, I love that. I mean, like I've met more people through these book clubs, but like I didn't have an outlet for that. So that was really nice. You were that for me.
You're just the best.
You still are. So that's why I'm not
going anywhere.
Yeah.
But as you can see, like buddy reading just kind of like happened so naturally. And we just ended up like reading the books at the same time.
Buddy reading is when we read a book at the same time or near the same time.
Or near the same time. Sometimes we're a little bit off.
We message each other or talk all about the book, what it did, sending quotes, sending little squealy emojis, whatever.
Yes.
Just enjoying the book together.
Yeah.
In a semi-close time frame.
Yeah. So I feel like it happened just kind of like naturally. And then we kind of started making like some like conscious choices of like, I'm going to read what she's reading right now. So you finished Mist and Fury and that's when I started Bones.
Bones.
This is where the relationship solidified. This is what
locked it down.
This is what locked it down. This is where we signed the contract. We made the blood oath, and we're now stuck together forever because we read Bones by Speer. So I got deep into I'm still deep into the Instagram fan art world. It's a beautiful world. I have so many saved pieces of art, different folders, everything. So I was way into that. And I kept getting this art that I was like, wow, this is like gorgeous art. I kind of love the vibe. And it was actually art from this author, this indie author. Her name's Speer. She's self-published right now. But her books are like on Kindle and Amazon. And she actually has she sells hard copies of them. So I read the synopsis. It's like a post-apocalyptic romantasy, and I was like, sold. We're so deep in fantasy, let's do this. So I bought it, started reading it, and I was like, Vanessa, what do you think about this? I bought this book.
And then you remember what I texted you?
Yeah, you sent me a snap.
It was literally like a screenshot of my
your Kindle
library, and it was like it was like next. I was finishing the book.
She likes me. We're actually friends.
That's how
she wants to read this book with me. So we read Bones, which
I want to take like a little pause in our story and talk about Bones.
Let's talk about Bones.
Okay. My probably top 3 for sure, if not my top 1 favorite book this year. So post-apocalyptic romantasy story about this woman named Bones who has been just like tortured her whole life. Yeah.
Until she escapes and kind of gets taken in by this group of people. She has a special ability to heal and heal others. And gets kind of taken in with this group. It's very much like a
found family,
but kind of ends up in like a Hunger Games type, like District 12-y.
Oh yeah, place. Yeah. Not necessarily like the games,
we're like, but the leader, the leader of like the city is like
almost like Divergent.
Okay, yeah, very Kate Winslet.
Yeah, like or like the later books, like Insurgent and stuff like that. You know, when they're off of,
but their leader's having Bones do some like horrible things.
Yeah,
and this burly troop of dudes, Mac and Trey and Grizz, they're all
Mac was my all-time favorite.
They're all there helping her through her trauma.
And we won't get too spoilery because it is still such like a newer read.
Yes,
not as
we
common.
Will hype this book till we die.
Go read it. We convinced this other book club to read it.
Yeah, we got him. We got him.
And it literally was my all-time favorite. And I don't cry in books often. Like I might do glistening tears. I sobbed. When I sobbed. You know what you did.
Yeah.
Miss Speer.
Speer. Thanks for that.
Oh my god. I
finished the book and I literally got a text from Vanessa. Because I knew it was coming. I finished the book and then I kept sending her like gifts of like people like poking up over the fence. Like, I'm just waiting for you to get to
And I knew something was going to happen.
Yeah. And so she texts me and says, I will never forgive you and I will never forget this. And I was like,
and that's when our friendships.
We're here, baby. So we read Bones, which everybody needs to read. It is so good.
It really like has a lot of inner dialogue, like a lot of discussion on trauma and how it's processed and like nothing like that would happen in the real world.
Yeah.
But just some of the things that like she was thinking, I was like, oh my gosh, I've totally thought that in my life. So yeah, just go read it. Can't hype it enough. But then after that, we were just like along for the ride, you know, everything. And then what did we read?
Why not go
Manacled?
From one trauma book to the next and read Manacled?
We really, yeah.
Why not dive headfirst into Hermione fanfic with like not the darkest, because I've read darker, but like a super dark, scary, intense.
What was
Hermione.
darker? Was Secrets and Masks?
I will never recover from that one.
I haven't read that one. That's what I don't think I'm going to read that one.
No,
but
don't. I won't let you.
I liked Manacled.
I loved.
She loved Manacled.
It was a right time, right place.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and you have a thing for like
torture.
Trauma. Hey, if torture.
Not torture. No, I do. I don't know why. Like heavy stories of like grief and trauma always like I don't know. They just hit me.
I think you're a very
place.
empathetic person by nature.
I am.
So when someone else is feeling pain, you're right there with them.
Yeah.
Like through it, you know what I mean?
Thank you. I've always kind of gravitated toward like sad books. I don't know why. They make me feel, and I like that.
So you're not dead inside.
Yeah. I mean, I finished a really sad book over the weekend, which we talked about in episode 1, all the young dudes.
Oh.
And I was with my family when I finished it. And they're like, why do you do this to yourself?
Photo, that snap you sent me, hysterical. We're going to put
I
it.
finished sobbing in my room. Like, I was so sad. And my family was like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I was just like, there is just something so beautiful about connecting with these characters. Like, and I even told them, like, I just spent like 1,800 pages with these characters. Like, to me, they're real.
Yeah.
I spent so much
How
time
many
with
hours
them.
do you think that was? Like, did you have, like, on your Kindle, did you have, like, an estimated
I'm
time?
gonna have to look. I want to say it was like over 30.
Yeah.
Easy. I was just like, there's something about connecting and like living an experience that I never will in a book and just throwing myself into it. They're my friends. I care about them. I love them.
Aw.
And I don't know. There's beauty in feeling.
There is beauty in feeling. I mean, you hear all the time in books where it's like you can't feel like happiness without grief. Like, you know, you have a spectrum. I think we kind of read a couple. I needed a palate cleanser after Manacled, and I read like A's for Aunties, which is not my genre at all. But it was a fun little read. And then you and I went back and read A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen.
Came home and you'd left a little birthday present on my front.
Oh,
step.
yeah.
And it included a gift card to Barnes & Noble. So I went to Barnes & Noble, and that's about when A Fate Inked in Blood came out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful book. Like, I think I might buy it. And I texted you, and you were like, I just got that. I just started it, and I just got it in my fairy loot box. Like, do you want to borrow it? And I was like, sure. I ended up buying something else. And then we read A Fate Inked in Blood together, which is like a Norse fantasy.
Yeah. That was kind of a nice one after the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like...
It wasn't super heavy.
Yeah.
It does have a twist kind of at the end. I mean, I didn't see it coming because I'm stupid.
You're not... No.
I'm a dumb reader, though. I just don't pay attention to things. I'm just along for the ride, and I get just as shocked as everybody else.
My neurodivergent like picks up on all the things.
You pick up on all the things, and I gloss over all of them.
So a lot of things aren't necessarily... Like Bones, that was out of left field, but Fate Inked in Blood, I was like, oh yeah, I saw that
I'm
coming.
sure if I went back and read it now, I'd be able to be like, oh.
And that has happened with some of the reads that you've done, right? So where you go back and you're like, oh.
Yeah. Fate Inked in Blood was like, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air in the fantasy world, like to bring in some Norse, just like something different, good old Vikings.
It was very much like the show Vikings, though. That's my one complaint. You went on to read Silver Flames.
I did.
What did I do?
I don't know. I just counted that one as a buddy read because I texted you so much during it.
Oh, yeah.
Because you didn't reread it. If you reread Frost and Starlight, so help me.
No.
Well, I had not read Silver Flames because I got scared out of it.
You didn't like Nesta.
I didn't like Nesta, and everybody was like, that book is so spicy. I don't think that you'll like it. And then spoiler alert for Crescent City 3, if you haven't read it, just skip ahead a couple buttons. Nesta is in Crescent City 3. Mm-hmm. And not only is she in it, but Nesta's healed in Crescent City 3.
Did you read Silver Flames after?
I read Silver Flames after. Oh. I wanted to read Silver Flames after because I saw healed Nesta. And I was like, I like her. Okay. I want to read Silver Flames.
That makes so much more sense.
And so then I just got over the spice because, yeah, it's spicy. But also, if you have read any book about trauma, like The Body Keeps the Score, Nesta's actions, her alcoholism, her sexual craziness, addiction is a very like natural way of dealing with trauma. Like, and she really threw herself into that, and Cassian was very happy to oblige. But honestly, like, that book is good. Nesta's story of healing is good.
But
we'll fully dive into ACOTAR, but I threw that one in because I talked to you a lot during that book because you'd read it. So I just kind of counted it as a buddy read.
But I remember actually talking about it when we were talking about Divine Rivals, because that was around the time that you're like, I don't know. Am I going to? Am I not?
Yes.
And I was like, you should, but I don't know if you'll like it.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't like Nesta. Because when we'd first talked, I was in Wings and Ruin, and nobody likes Nesta in Wings and Ruin.
No, she's not great. Yeah.
I don't know. I always look at our map of like what we've buddy read, and I'm just like, it's so random.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no rhyme or reason until we get to like Throne of Glass. But before that, this is when we really perfected our buddy reading system. Was when we read Serpent in the Wings of Night, which we read for a book club. You had read it already. I had not. So we read Serpent in the Wings of Night. So I split screened my Kindle. So I had the book on
your
one
iPad.
side. On my iPad. Sorry, I read it on my iPad.
That's a very crucial.
Okay. We perfected buddy reading because I read it on my iPad. So I did split screen. So I had reading on one side and I had text with you on the other side.
Which
so
I had
it was
no
just
clue.
No, it was
you
a
could do
brand new
that.
discovery. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I can split the screen and I can read and immediately text about it. So
You sent me a screenshot.
We sent so many quotes because Kindle, the app, also does that amazing thing where you can highlight a passage and it makes it all cute into a quote. So
Unless
we did
it's
that
long.
a lot. And again, I got thrown off by this book
Yeah,
a few times.
That's an interesting book. I liked it a lot the first time I read it, and then I didn't like it as much the second time. But what was so beautiful was like that's just when we really, really started to click in the buddy reading, like purposefully buddy reading, getting each other's like, oh my gosh, Rain did this and Orias
we were
said that,
like in the same place for most of it, of just like, oh, I'm just like a chapter behind you, or oh, I'm just, and we were just like texting constantly.
Yeah, it was great. It was fabulous. And then I think
So I was not happy at the end of Serpent in the Wings of the Night. I was really thrown and I was really upset about it. Like I finished that book and I went upstairs and I sat next to Jake and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I hated the ending of that book. I'm so mad. And you're like, what are we going to do next? And I was like, you had been like, not so sneakily been sending me Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Like nudges on TikTok and Instagram for like a couple of weeks. Like, well, one day we can do this.
one day.
Nudge, nudge.
Well, okay. That's almost really hard not to do because so much of the book talk fandom is SJM. Like
It's true.
You know what I mean? Like if you look
Yeah.
at the percentage of fan art that's out there, it's
all her.
85% SJM.
Yeah. The other percentage is Hermione.
Yeah. Yeah. With like a little sprinkle of other things. But yeah.
So you'd been sending me videos like Throne of Glass. And I was like, but you knew that I do not do well when I'm poked and prodded to do something.
Who does?
Yeah. But you know that I'm like,
Yeah, you really don't.
I really don't. Like, nobody wants to be told what to do, but like, if I am recommended a book too often, I probably won't ever read it. Like, I'm really sorry, Marcus Zusak. I love Bridge of Clay, but I've never read The Book Thief because 800 people have told me to read it at this point. And I'm just like, I'm sure it's good, but I'll never know because I was going to be able to get him on Kindle. What did you just remember?
I read Bridge of Clay and then we went right into Throne of Glass.
Okay, yeah.
So I read your favorite book and I think maybe that was like, you're like, maybe I should read Throne of Glass, but I definitely was like,
Yeah.
And then
she had been not so subtly nudging me and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I tried to start without telling you. Like, I was like, Vanessa, they don't have the books anymore. And you're like, have no fear. And I wish that I still had the video on my doorbell. I probably do. I could probably find it. But you just like walking up to my doorstep with the entire hardback box set and just plopping it on my porch.
like, here, have fun.
And then I started that day and I finished Throne of Glass the next day. The first book.
Oh, I was like,
not
whoa.
the entire series. No. I did read it in 3 weeks.
Yeah, that was nuts.
I think under 3 weeks.
That is
I was just a day shy of 3
So
weeks.
I reread them with you and I was like struggling to keep up.
Which is so funny because so we read Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Assassin's Blade. Then
I think we read Air of Fire.
We read Air of Fire first.
Then Assassin's Blade.
Okay, so we went Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Air of Fire, Assassin's Blade, Queen of Shadows, Empire Storms, Tower of Dawn, Kingdom of Ash. That's a lot of books.
It is a lot of books.
And it was the end of Air of Fire because the first two are like easy peasy. And it was the end of Air of Fire that you were hauling it. And I think at this point we were just like unknowingly like motivating each other.
Yeah, probably.
It's like midnight and I'm just like furiously reading and Jake's like, are you going to go to bed? And I'm like, no, because Vanessa's going to finish tonight and I've got to finish. And I was just like, and
I always
like reading so much
because I work during the day. And so like I can't ever read during the day. I have to read like at night. So I was like, I have to keep reading until 2 a.m. so I
Plus,
could
how can you
keep
put the
up with
book down at
Julie.
the end of Heir of Fire?
That's true.
There's so much good happening at the end of that book.
Honestly, just like a great series. And you just like devoured it, and it made me so like when someone likes your favorite book, like your little,
when you hand them a piece of your soul and they like are accepting and loving and they embrace it, nothing's better. But one of the highlights of our buddy reading happened in Queen of Shadows, because we were about at the same place, and I was like, hey, want to come over for a read and rot night? Let's just eat snacks, sit and read the same book. I've got an ideal setup with my Pluffle. It's a human dog bed. The best thing that's ever been created.
And one thing I'll say is don't knock it till you try it. That thing's amazing.
It's incredible.
It's like you look at it and you're like, what? And then you get in it and you're like,
my life will never be the same. So anyways, we're reading Queen of Shadows in my dark basement, eating snacks
with the Witcher
fireplace from on Netflix up on the TV. And that was the best, because we were, again, like basically in the same place.
So we could talk to each other, about it. But we still read. Like it was still a quiet evening.
The only other time that we really got far apart was at the end of Kingdom of Ash, because I had like 300 pages left and I was like, I'm reading it all today. And you're like, okay.
Go for it.
That's one of the like 3 books that I have balled in recent memory.
Yeah, it's amazing. I bawl every time.
Live Manon. But that was...
Yeah.
That was like a peak in our buddy reading. We get to the top of the mountain and you look around and you're just like, this is beautiful.
And I think we had a hangover afterwards.
We did. And you know what? Not all buddy reading can be beautiful. And you can't always love every book you read together, because this is when we hit some books that it was kind of like ruh-roh raggy.
I read Book of Azrael.
Yes.
And I loved it. And to be honest, I still think you would have loved it. I think you read it in the wrong time of life.
Yes, I did. Yeah. So then it was Zodiac Academy 1.
Listen, I didn't say you'd enjoy it. I just said I needed someone to talk to about it.
And I was fully down for it.
Yeah.
And I read the
first one is probably the worst one. Well, that's not true either.
Well, I tried to read the second one too, and then I was just like, I cannot do this right now.
It's if anyone has ever read Zodiac Academy, you know it's not great, but somehow you still want to read it.
It's a thing. It's a thing for sure. But we did Zodiac Academy 1 and then Book of Azrael, which I did not love. But again, I think the hangover from Throne of Glass hit a little bit, like it was a little delayed. I feel like I read a couple books afterwards and I was just kind of like, oh my
You were like starting into Hermione. Like that's when you were diving into that pool.
Yeah. But that was kind of like a lull. That was just kind of one of those moments where it's like, you loved it, I didn't. That's fine. Let's move on. Then we did like Song of Achilles,
which I don't think either one of us loved, but we were on the same page. It was a
4-star. Like it, I don't know. That was a 3 for you.
Yeah.
It was a 4-star for me. It kicked me in the chest. Like I felt.
I wanted more of their love story and I did not get it. So that was kind of.
You should read All the Young Days.
Then
because you're going to get more in that.
I love that. Then we did Ashes of the Star-Cursed King, which is book 2 to the Serpent.
Okay.
And the Wings of Night.
I made a mistake. I messed up and I will own up to it. Do not put that much space between a book that's a duology.
That is complete.
That's complete. Okay, so I read Serpent and the Wings of Night like in February. And then I read Ashes and the Star-Cursed King like in May or June.
Yeah.
And I did not like it because I forgot everything. I had to like go back into Serpent and the Wings of Night and like look up characters. It was a bad move on my part.
And it's so political.
It is so political.
So then we started doing like some research for the podcast. We reread Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, which you did not want to read. I don't know if I made you.
This was one of those moments where you're like, Julie, we're doing this for the podcast. You need to read it. And I was like, I'm so down for Fourth Wing. Terrified. You need to
reread it.
Reread it. I'd already read it. Yeah. And I loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
That book on a reread was great. That book is like, it's not high quality. It's like that meme where you're just like, I said I loved the book. I didn't say it was good.
Yeah.
That's what Fourth Wing is. It hits all the boxes.
We also just did Spark of the Everflame, which I devoured. And I was like, Julie, you have to read it because it was on your TBR.
Good. You needed that.
I did. I was in a book slump.
You needed that. Where was I at?
You were reading Marauders.
What was I reading before Marauders? What did I do before that?
Was there life before Marauders?
Was there life before Marauders?
I think you were reading a Hermione fanfic, but like a different one.
You're right. I was.
It was Rosemary.
Rosemary for Remembrance.
Yeah. Because you bound that one.
Oh. Here's what happened. Here's what happened. I read Secrets and Masks, which is like the darkest book I've ever read in my entire life. And I have only moved on because I found The Marauders, or else I'd still kind of be reeling from that book. Mm-hmm. That book did me so dirty that I had to go touch grass and read a nonfiction. And that's when I picked up that John Green book, which I loved. But then I devoured like 3 or 4 contemporary romances. Mm-hmm. And then I jumped into a Hermione. So you were getting into Spark because we had a read and rot night, and you were reading Spark at that point, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I was reading the rom-commers.
Oh. Okay,
no,
listen.
you're reading Zodiac Academy.
Yeah, okay. I put too much time into that series not to finish it. And I have been waiting. I was reading 8.5, which is like
stupid 0.5 novellas.
But there's like 12 total. Like there's like a few 0.5s.
But the 0.5 can go kiss my butt. It makes no sense.
It's terrible.
I hate 0.5.
Yeah.
I hate it. Kind of back in a little bit of a buddy reading place.
Yeah, because
I'm reading Glow. You're done. You're
just
done
finished
with the 3 right now. I'm on the second one, but we're back to doing the quotes.
Yeah.
We're sharing the quotes. We're getting all the quotes in, and it's great. And we're sharing our thoughts, and it's wonderful.
We just we found such a beautiful like cadence to how we do it, and we don't always have to be on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I think that everyone should have a person they buddy read with. You know,
so
it could be their mom. I don't care.
I used to think I would hate it. It feels very like intimate in ways of just like
yeah,
I love reading so much, and now I'm just gonna like share it all because you have so many thoughts and feelings when you're reading books, especially ones that you love.
Yeah,
like I'm a little scared. Like I want people to read all the young dudes, but I'm also scared because when you love something so much,
if someone doesn't like it as much, that can be really hard.
Do you ever have those moments where you rate a book and then you look at other people's reviews and you're just like, I'm an idiot?
No, but I don't think I'm that person. I don't go looking at I don't look at Goodreads before I read something. I don't look at the reviews. I do leave reviews, and I try to give like a fresh perspective because I feel like a lot of my reviews aren't. The times that I do read other people's reviews, they're always like, oh, I loved it. And I was like, let me get into the structure of the story. Like, I think I'm a little bit more analytical that way.
Yeah.
Although I do have one review on Goodreads that has gotten a decent amount of traction on that people liked, but it was my 1 star. And I was like,
righteous.
Yeah.
What's that book?
The 3rd book of Long Live the Elf Queen. I loved the first 2, and then she changes the love interest, but like it's not well done. Anyway.
What we're saying is buddy reading is amazing.
Do it with someone.
Do it, and you might find your best friend. You never know.
That's true. And if you want, you can buddy read with us, and you can follow us on social media, and we're going to announce like what books we're reading, and you can just kind of read along with us.
Join us, share your thoughts.
Comment,
Send us your favorite quotes.
Ooh, we love that.
Because of anything. I just want people to tell me all their thoughts and feelings when they're reading a book. That's all I ask. And when I say, tell me what you think, I literally mean, tell me what you think. Even if it's after every chapter, even if your texts take up the whole page, I want to know it all.
Yes, you are very much like that.
That's why I have a sticker that says, text me when you finish the book.
That's amazing. I've never seen a sticker.
But I should amend that sticker to say, and while you're reading it, after every chapter.
You just find your people, you know? Just find your cadence with whoever, and you guys can follow along with us, and we'd love to extend that invitation. Just
love it.
Have fun. Let us know what you think.
Ratings for everyone, ratings for you. Keep growing that TBR, and we'll catch you next week.